The Challenger disaster was a tragedy in which the Space Shuttle Challenger launch failed due to wrong calculations and bad weather conditions, leading to triumphs in the space industry.
On April 4, 1983, the Space Shuttle Challenger was successfully launched for the first time.
Challenger successfully launched 8 more times and was scheduled to launch again on January 22, 1986 for the 10th time, but was delayed due to cold weather conditions.
On January 28, 1986 at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Challenger Space Shuttle launched for the 10th time.
73 seconds after liftoff, at approximately 46,000 feet, a seal in the right fuel tank designed to keep the fuel tank from leaking failed due to the cold temperatures.
Hydrogen mixed with oxygen, which engulfed the shuttle in flames, killing all 7 astronauts aboard.
Scientists researched this tragedy, which led to triumphs in the space program, including more extensive tests to ensure safety, enhancements of the solid rocket boosters, and numerous upgrades to different mechanisms and technologies.
NASA, or National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was created on October 1, 1958.
NASA's original purpose was to research the problems of flight outside of Earth's atmosphere.
It went on to land a man on the moon and create space shuttles which could be launched and landed multiple times.
On April 12, 1981, the first ever space shuttle was launched. It was named Columbia and had 2 astronauts aboard.
The Challenger was launched successfully for the first time 3 years later. It went on to be launched 8 additional times before the January 23, 1986 disaster.
The flight was scheduled to launch on January 23, 1986, and have 7 astronauts aboard. Dick Scooby, Michael J. Smith, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Gregory Jarvis, and history teacher from Maryland, Krista McAuliffe.
However, the scheduled launch was postponed a few days to January 28th due to cold weather conditions.
On the night before the launch, one of the head engineers working on the shuttle realized that the next day the shuttle was going to explode due to the cold weather conditions.
He relayed his calculations to the head of NASA saying, "Don't launch the ship, it's going to blow," but the message was ignored.
On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger was launched for the 10th time. At 36 degrees Fahrenheit, it was 15 degrees colder than any launch so far.
The night before, temperatures had reached below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, causing there to be icicles on the launch pad.
The shuttle was launched at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Time at Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. The seal was designed to keep the fuel tank from leaking. When the hydrogen mixed with the oxygen outside the shuttle, it engulfed the shuttle in flames, causing it to look like the shuttle exploded.
1 minute 15 seconds, velocity 2,900 feet per second, altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
It is theorized that the crew of the Challenger didn't die immediately when the ship was engulfed in flames, but did die when the shuttle split apart due to a lack of an escape system.
From the ground level, it looked as if the ship had exploded, and even NASA said that it did to the press.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union, but the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country.
3 days later, on January 31st, 1986, a memorial for the Challenger crew was held at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
This tragedy was mourned by all of America, and it wasn't until another 2.5 years until NASA decided to launch another flight. But the tragedy brought about triumphs in the industry. After the disaster, Ronald Reagan, the current president of the United States, hired the Rogers Commission, which was a group of scientists to find out why the Challenger had failed.
Their investigation led them to finding out the real cause of the incident, being that a seal in the right O-ring on the solid rocket booster designed to keep the fuel tank from leaking failed due to cold temperatures.
Solid rocket boosters were extensively redesigned due to the cause of the Challenger disaster.
Safety tests were made more thorough to ensure that another accident did not happen again.
These events have changed the way astronauts think before going on mission. We will now interview Dorothy Metcalf Lindenberger and find out her thoughts before launch.
Dorothy Metcalf Lindenberger was born on May 15, 1975. She attended Whitman College in Washington.
She was selected by NASA in May 2004 as an astronaut candidate. She had previously been a teacher at Hudson's Bay High School.
In February 2006, she completed her astronaut training, qualifying her as a NASA astronaut.
She was a mission specialist on the STS-131 Discovery shuttle launch to the International Space Station.
Her mission launch was April 5, 2010, 1 year before shuttle missions were discontinued.
When did I first want to be an astronaut? Well, I started kind of learning that even being an astronaut was a possibility when I was in the 3rd grade. And did I watch the Challenger disaster? Yes, I did. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade. I know where I was. I was heading to the library because that particular mission wasn't fixed. Like my mission was fixed in time. They could launch any time in that day. So I was really excited because we all knew that Krista McAuliffe was on it. I really wanted to watch it. I told you, like in 3rd grade, I started becoming interested in space. So I really started researching more, and I really wanted to watch this mission. But anyway, I was going down to the library, and a teacher that had been my 1st grade teacher and I really cared about, he stopped me in the hall and he said, "It just exploded." And did it affect my view on becoming an astronaut? Well, it just affected my view. I remember going home and talking with my mom about death. Like, I had been so excited to watch this, and it really made me very sad, and I wasn't sure how I felt completely about it, but I knew I was sad. We learned, because we did lose the Challenger crew, and because we also lost the Columbia crew when they were returning home from space, we know a lot about the risk of flying, and we know about the ways we've mitigated those risks. Getting excited, you're taking it seriously, like this is the launch day, but you're also kind of going into it knowing that, well, you might be doing this tomorrow too.
Yeah.
In conclusion, if it wasn't for the tragic Challenger disaster, NASA wouldn't be where it was at today because it wouldn't have had its past experience with shuttle failure, and they wouldn't have been able to accomplish triumphs, upgrading mechanisms, enhancing safety protocol, and they still could be launching shuttles to this day.